You got that there? Yeah. Oh, hello, and welcome to the Sacramento Southern's Part 214 training. My name is John Chandler.
And I'm Sandy Coots, and we're here to discuss what you're going to need to do and will encompass for Part 214 training for anybody that works on or about the railroad tracks.
Part 214 is governed by the Federal Code of Regulations, Title 49, Parts 213, which is track safety standards, and Part 214, which you're going through right now, on track safety for roadway workers. Part 214 is also governed by the CPUC, California Public Utilities Commission, the Sacramento Southern General Orders, the Sacramento Southern Timetable, as well as G-Corps, and if all else fails, the Southern Pacific Common Standards.
Everybody, when they complete this course, if you don't have one already, will receive a binder with the requirements in it for 214, so that when you're ever in question about what to do and you want to review these things, it'll be handy so you can review it and continue to be safe on the track or about the track.
Each and every one of you should be a volunteer with the California State Railroad Museum. Before becoming a volunteer, you have to fill out a volunteer service agreement and hopefully have gone through the volunteer training, which is offered periodically by the museum staff. And as volunteers, our goal is to support state parks, in particular the California State Railroad Museum.
Purpose of 214 is to bring you in compliance with safe operation and outline your responsibilities as well as the managers of the railroad, and also in addition bring you into compliance with federal regulations.
There are several definitions that are important to anyone working on the track and are key to Part 214 training. Volunteers. Volunteers are unpaid employees of the California State Railroad Museum and the state park system. As a volunteer, you can bring no discredit upon the CSRM. If you fail to behave in a manner responsible to being a state employee or a member of the CSRM staff, disciplinary action may be brought to bear. An employee. An employee is an individual who is engaged or compensated by a railroad to perform any of the duties required under Part 213 and 214 of the Federal Code of Regulations, Title 49. An employee in charge. An employee in charge is an employee who is responsible for on-track safety protection. By definition, a lone worker is an employee in charge. The employer. The employer is the railroad that directly engages or compensates individuals to perform any of the duties defined under Parts 213 and 214 of the Federal Code of Regulations, Title 49. In this case, your employer is the California State Railroad Museum. Fouling the track. Fouling the track is the placement of an individual or an item of equipment in such proximity to a track that the individual or equipment could be struck by a moving train or on-track equipment, or in any case is within 4 feet of the field side of the near running rail. Lone worker. Lone worker, an individual roadway worker who is not being afforded on-track safety by another roadway worker, who is not a member of a roadway work group, and who is not engaged in a common task with another roadway worker. Restricted speed. A speed that will permit a train or other equipment to stop within 1/2 the range of vision of a person operating the train or other equipment, but not exceeding 10 miles per hour on the Sacramento Southern. Roadway worker, an employee of a railroad whose duties include inspection, construction, maintenance or repair of railroad track, bridges, roadway, signal and communication systems, electric traction systems, roadway facilities, or roadway maintenance machinery on or near track within the potential of fouling the track. A flagman and watchman lookouts are also here defined. Work limits. Work limits are a segment of track with definite boundaries established in accordance with this part, upon which trains and engines may move only as authorized by the roadway worker in charge having control over that defined segment of track. Work limits may be established through exclusive track occupancy, inaccessible track, foul time, or train coordination. On-track safety protection. A state of freedom from the danger of being struck by a moving railroad train or other railroad equipment, provided by operating and safety rules that govern track occupancy by personnel, trains, and on-track equipment. Exclusive track occupancy. Exclusive track occupancy is a method of establishing working limits on a controlled track in which movement authority of trains or other equipment is withheld by the train dispatcher or restricted by flagmen to protect workers. Exclusive track occupancy will typically be managed by the employee in charge. Lookout. Lookout, an employee who has been annually trained and qualified to provide warning to roadway workers of approaching trains or on-track equipment. Watchmen, lookouts, shall be properly equipped to provide visual and auditory warning such as a whistle, air horn, light disc, red flag, lantern, or fusee. A watchman lookout's sole duty is to look out for approaching trains on-track equipment and provide at least 15 seconds advanced warning to employees before arrival of trains or on-track equipment. Inaccessible track is a method of establishing working limits on non-controlled track by physically preventing entry and movement into trains and equipment. Train coordination. Train coordination is a method of establishing work limits on track upon which a train holds exclusive authority to move, whereby the crew of that train yields that authority to a roadway worker, typically the employee in charge. The Sacramento Southern has several track occupancy definitions. Controlled track. Movement of trains is controlled by a dispatcher. Uncontrolled track is when trains move without the control of a dispatcher. The Sacramento Southern operates under controlled track. A job briefing is required before any employees foul the track. The job briefing shall include all employees or employees in charge when multiple work groups are included in the work area. Included in the job briefing are the specifics for the job to be undertaken and the safety measures to be employed to protect on-track workers. A job briefing may include news of the day, a work plan and/or work assignments, safety equipment required for the job, the method of on-track protection, and a designated place of safety for workers to clear the tracks. The job briefing shall not be complete until each worker has acknowledged that he or she understands the safety procedures and instructions provided. Additional briefings shall be conducted with each employee when the on-track safety protection changes. The job briefing can be face-to-face, transmitted by computer, or by telephone. A lone worker who fouls a track shall have a job briefing with the supervisor or other designated employee before beginning his or her tour of duty. This briefing process shall include the following: the planned itinerary, the on-track protection procedures to be used, completion of a statement of on-track safety, which must be carried with the lone worker and presented upon demand, provisions for handling emergencies, an agreement with his or her supervisor as to the person or agency to contact and the means of communication to be used in the event of an emergency, an understanding that the lone worker will carry a cellular phone and/or operating two-way radio capable of communicating with the crew center. The roadway workers must expect movement of trains, engines, cars, or maintenance-away equipment at any time, on any track, or in either direction. On-track safety protection. The Sacramento Southern commonly uses 3 types of train protection: lookout, exclusive track occupancy, and inaccessible track. Let's discuss those 3 independently. If you are assigned the duty of a lookout, you must have completed the annual 214 training and be certified as a lookout flagman. As the lookout, you must be able to give warnings of approaching trains to roadway work group members that you are protecting. No warning to be used shall require that the employee being protected be looking at the watchman or lookout in order to receive the warning. The warning will be given by the lookout to each roadway worker to enable them to move to a prearranged safety position at least 15 seconds before the train passes by the working area. Lookouts must only perform lookout duties and shall devote their full attention to train movement in the working area. Do not allow yourself to be distracted in assisting other crew members in their tasks. Lookouts must only perform lookout duties and shall devote full attention to train movement in the working area. Exclusive track occupancy. Working limits are established on controlled track on which movement authority is withheld or restricted by the dispatcher. On the Sacramento Southern Railroad, the following methods shall be used. A flagman protecting the entrance points within the working limits and instructed by the EIC to only permit the movement of trains and equipment into the working limits as permitted by the EIC. Red flags placed at all entrance points within the working limits. When placing red flags, you will place the red flag on the right-hand side of the track that approaches your working limits. Do not begin work until the red flag has been put into position. By a clearance card and attached train orders from the crew dispatcher. The clearance card shall have a station in the timetable and identified by name with a sign which a train may not pass by without train authority, or a clearly marked milepost which a train is prohibited from passing without train authority, or a clearly defined physical location described by the operating rules of the railroad beyond which trains may not pass without authority. The EIC shall have his or her possession a copy of this clearance and shall maintain authority while it is in effect. Movements must be under the direction of the EIC at restricted speed or higher speed as directed by the EIC.
When you're working out on the track and there's no one available in the crew center, nor can you reach anyone easily, you'll need to identify that you are out working on the line. As part of 214, it is important that you are making safe all you and your crew members, whether you're a worker or an EIC. Train protection, track protection, is always the most important thing in your job briefings and securing the protection of your people on a railroad. We have in the maintenance of way, we call it a red sheet. This red sheet here helps identify to any crew members that are coming to operate on the track that you are out working. Once you have completed this red sheet, you will then take it and put it onto the spike here that is located in the crew center and has clearance cards. This will indicate to everyone that you're out on the line, when you're out on the line, where you'll be on the line, and what you're doing on the line. If you're not able to get a hold of anyone, this is your protection. It is establishing your work limits, it is establishing your exclusive track occupancy, and they should not be entering your area until they've contacted you and had your permission.
Inaccessible track, where all possible access points to a section of track are blocked from train movement. Train protection will be provided using one of the following: a qualified flagman, switch or derail aligned and secured with an effective locking device to prevent access, a discontinuity in the rail.
When you get out to the job site, it's always important that you have your roadway worker safety materials on hand anytime you're working out on the line. Located in this briefcase, if you can get it open, you'll have those materials that you need. Your roadway worker safety training manual, which includes a copy of 214 in there if you ever have any dispute or question about what your safety rules are. Good faith challenge forms available for the employees at any time if they feel that they're being unsafely asked to do something unsafe. Some flares and a horn or some other sound device for your lookout protection.
Now, if I were to ask you gentlemen to do something you thought was unsafe, what would you do?
First, I would tell you that I don't agree and why. If we cannot resolve the issue, then my recourse final then would be by submitting a good faith challenge form.
And as the EIC, I have the good faith challenge form right here.
A roadway worker has an absolute right to challenge in good faith whether the on-track safety procedures applied at the job location comply with the railroad safety and operating rules.
Ooh, something shiny. Okay, here you go. It's fixed.
What, this? No,
What's
you
wrong
do
with
it.
You can use it.
No, that's not safe.
Look, I'm telling you, it's fine.
Then you do it.
I'm telling you to do it.
Well, then I think I need to file a good faith challenge.
good faith challenge is always an option for someone that feels that they're being asked to use something unsafe, even if it really isn't.
This part of 214 training will include Subpart D, which applies itself to track machinery. In other words, on-track machinery, flange-mounted equipment. In this case, we have our old reliable here, our man lift that's used by the track department and when it needs it. Also the weed crews, the tree trimming crews, and possibly the signal department. You'll notice on this machine there is a location for a headlight and a tail light, both of which will be operable. In addition to that, on the roof, we have a flashing yellow safety light for visibility farther down the track. You'll also be able to move back down here and notice that there are some step areas. But along with the fact, just because there's steps doesn't mean that's a location for you to ride. You'll notice in this location it's labeled here no riders. Again, up on top. You ride nowhere on any track machine unless it's specifically designated for your own safety and safety of others. We'll move along back here to the cab opening. And then the cab are where all the controls are for temperature and charging and whatnot, but more importantly are the safety items. A fire extinguisher is charged and mounted, a first aid kit, and in addition to that, we have a container that contains the dust mask, because sometimes this gets terribly dusty. So you might find objects in your eyes, and this takes care of the problem with an eye wash. So that just about takes care of the safety items in this particular part of the equipment. Okay, this part of 214, again, Subpart D will apply itself to alighting and getting off of vehicles. In this particular case, you will notice that there is a safe place to put your feet, and when the operator gets on the vehicle, they make sure that the footing is secure, and then as they continue to climb up on, they will grab handholds that are distinctly marked in a different color so that they can grab those and hang on safely while they get on and off the machinery. This part of 214 will address itself to towing another vehicle or drawing another vehicle behind a powered piece of equipment. You will never do anything other than use a rigid drawbar attached securely to each vehicle to make sure it's done before you move the equipment. That's the operator's responsibility. In addition to that, whenever you draw a vehicle, no matter what the circumstances are, you will, well, stop that! You will never use anything flexible such as a chain, rope, or, God forbid, a bungee cord.
Harassment, sexual or otherwise, will not be tolerated on the Sacramento Southern Railroad.
If you find yourself a victim of any type of harassment, you have several courses of action available to you.
Should you find yourself a victim of sexual harassment, notify the person in a clear and distinct manner that you will not accept that behavior.
If you do not feel comfortable in asking them to stop, you can go to your EIC or supervisor and report the behavior that the supervisor may then approach the person and tell them to cease and desist immediately.
The Sacramento Southern Railroad and the California State Railroad Museum, as part of state parks, has a zero-tolerance policy for harassment, sexual or otherwise. Failure to address sexual harassment situations may lead to legal implications for supervisor and those involved in the harassment.
Thank you for watching this Part 214 safety training video. As we get ready to start a new year on the Sacramento Southern Railroad, let's remember that safety is everyone's responsibility. From the job briefing, where the EIC and the employee are mutually responsible for making sure that they understand what is the safety, the on-track protection, what a safety equipment you need, and what the job will be for that particular day. And if you're late to a job site, you as the employee are responsible for seeking out a job briefing aggressively from the EIC. So let's have a good year out there, let's be safe, and let's have fun.